Hello, everyone, and coming to you live from an undisclosed location somewhere in North America. This is your weekly live Truth Be Told Minuteman report, and this is Robert Hensley coming to you from the bunker. Great day today. A really interesting story here today, and I'm excited to share this with you. So we are talking today about the mystery of the Sayre Giants. All right. So Sayre, Pennsylvania is located in the northeastern part of the state, close to the New York state line. And back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, kind of the great expansion of the United States. Remember, in 1912, everything that had been considered Indian or indigenous territory now became part of the United States. And with that came a lot of archaeology, a lot of really kind of tearing down sacred sites by the white folks to try to find treasures for museums and whatnot. And so there was a very famous dig that happened in Sayre, Pennsylvania. In an area called Spanish Hill, and this archaeological dig that was led by a state historian, Dr. G.P. Donahue, and two visiting professors, A.B. Skinner and W.K. Morehead. They were excavating a burial mound on Spanish Hill, and they came across remains. Now, the remains were reported to have been giants, over 7 feet tall, and that on each of the skeletons, attached to the foreheads, or kind of protruding from the foreheads, 2 inches above the eye sockets, were horns. And so the story that made national news, that went into the newspaper, was that these archaeologists had discovered an extinct race of giants, of horned giants, that at one point had roamed the Americas. Now, they sent these skeletons to the museum. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to look here because I know that they sent it to a particular museum. Can't remember which one it was. Was not the Smithsonian. Anyway, so they sent these skeletons off to a museum. There were anthropologists, people who were supposedly studying the skeletons, had never seen anything like it. And then years later, come to find that those skeletons had been misplaced and that there are no records of horned giant skeletons ever in existence at these institutions, right? So it's become kind of a mystery of how this happened or what was found specifically. So what we know for sure, right, is that Donahue and what's the rest of their names? The Donahue, Skinner, and Morehead did lead an archaeological expedition, and they did discover remains in the burial mounds. At the time, it did make news. There were newspaper reporters from all over the Northeast coming to see what was happening on Spanish Hill, to see what was being dug up, and and it went to the American Investigation Museum. That's where those remains had been sent. So again, all of this happens very quickly in the early 1900s. I want to say that this was before or around 1916. So again, there was a lot of speculation, and so what we come to find out later, right, or what we come to find out now, is that these burial mounds were part of the Susquehannock people. That was their burial sites. and that the Susquehannocks were known for being a tall people, much bigger than the European settlers who came to the area later. So what we see is the difference of being the European grave sites from the time from, pre 1900s, that the Europeans were really tiny. They were only they ranged in height from 4 feet to 5'3", right? But these Susquehannock, also called the Andaste, that the skeletons from their burial mounds were found to be 6 to 7 feet tall. Most of them within the 6-foot range, but some going as tall as 7, much larger than the European counterparts from the time period. And then there comes the question of the horns, right? So later, after news is published about these skeletons being found with horns or having horns protruding from their foreheads, there are some letters written from Allinson Skinner, right? So he's one of the archaeologists, one of the visiting archaeologists, and he claimed in one of his letters, and I'll read this letter to you. It says, this is from July 18th, 1916. My dear Mrs. Murray, just a line to tell you that the Binghamton reporter got a hold of our notes in the absence of Professor Morehead and myself. The newspaper account is second-hand interpretation of our skeleton with the deposit of horns over it. Hence, a skull with horns on it. Our skeletons are perfectly normal. Best and good wishes, Allinson Skinner. So what the archaeologist found in the layers of earth were that there were animal horns, antlers, buried or in the sediment above the skeletons, and that as they were digging, those horned protrusions, the horns, the remains, the antlers, ended up falling into and being in the grave or in the site with the skeleton. At no point did they ever, the archaeologists, ever say that these skeletons, these giant remains, had horns, right? So someone else took their notes, interpreted them wildly and salaciously, and created a newspaper story about horned giants being located in Sayre, Pennsylvania. Now, this is a kind of a local legend. It's definitely, there are articles about it online. There are plenty of travel sites that mention Spanish Hill and the archaeological site of the famed horned giants. But really, when it comes right down to it, while this little town had became quite popular for this mysterious archaeological dig in the early 1900s, by the time 1940 rolled around, the town of Sayre was had pretty much declined. So there's not really a lot that I could find as far as important industry or anything there now. I'm sure it's an absolutely lovely place, and it would be interesting to see Spanish Hill and just kind of get a look at where those mounds were located. But that is now owned. It's private property. You can't go there without permission, just so you know. Don't go showing up saying, I heard on the Minuteman report of where this was and I wanted to see for myself, because I didn't give you permission. I can't. So, that's it. That's the mystery of the Sayre Giants. I wish that I could have, that the mystery had kind of stayed open. It would have been great to find out, a little more, because, you see these images online, right, of the skull with the horns, and you're thinking, if that's real, if that's really what they found, that's pretty phenomenal. But of course, It was it was a story for a newspaper, right? Anything to sell papers, as my grandfather would say. But yeah, so this today's story here on the Minuteman, though, ties in with Tony's guest on Friday. If you want to talk or hear a little bit more about giants, about the Nephilim, who are the race of giants that are mentioned in the Bible, Tony's going to be talking on Friday with L.A. Marzulli, who is the expert on all things Nephilim. So again, 3 times each week to catch Truth Be Told content. Me, your Minuteman, with the Minuteman Report on Mondays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern. Bonnie with Truth Be Told Transformation on Wednesdays at 3 Pacific. And then, of course, Tony with the original Truth Be Told on live on Fridays at 3 p.m., 6 Eastern. And as always, if you like the content that you find here on our YouTube channel, please feel free to like and share and subscribe if you haven't already. And, and visit us online at www.truthbetoldworldwide.com for more information, our schedule of shows, and also, if you're interested in little trinkets and gifts, hit that shop button and buy some Truth Be Told merchandise. And that's it for this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with me a little bit here on your Monday afternoon. I appreciate it. And we're going to call this a day. Again, this is Robert Hensley, your Truth Be Told Minuteman, signing off. And this has been another episode of the Truth Be Told Minuteman Report. And we will see you again next week. See y'all later.